Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major roster developments with the OpTic Halo players confirming their intention to switch to Call of Duty for Black Ops 7. Hector makes it very clear from the OpTic perspective that will be far easier said than done, saying they're not simply free agents to walk into whatever team they want and there may be something else on the cards. Does that mean a buyout would be paid by any organisation that would want them, or does it potentially mean that OpTic are considering forming an OpTic Nation Challengers squad pretty much with the Halo team? Where does FormaL fit into this whole picture as well? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Just starting here because Zuma wants to run his own Esports World Cup or Nations Cup, whatever you want to call it. We know the Esports World Cup is effectively the Club World Cup out in Riyadh. That happened about a month or so ago now. OpTic won their second event in a row. Since then there's been lots of roster stuff. We'll get into some of the continuation of it in the coming minutes, but there's also been talk, could we do a Nations Cup? Rumour has it, well it's not a rumour, there is going to be an Esports Nations Cup starting in Riyadh next November. But is Call of Duty going to be there? That is a question. Illy says representing Team India, and this is Zuma's World Cup. So he obviously spoke to plenty of players here. I think for the Canadian side, Dashy can't make it. So obviously there's not all the names in here basically. But Shotzzy potentially representing Team Mexico. We've got Team India. We've got Team Canada with Asim and Yusuf, right? Like Asim's younger brother. He must be, what, 13 now? 13, 14, something like that. So that's pretty cool. There's a UK team, an Australian team that's yet to be kind of fully realised. Of course, Saudi team with ex-Nidans. Some other options over there in Saudi Arabia. They had quite a few, as we know, on that Saudi team this season. They started out with, King of Body and Roxas and, of course, Kix, who then departed. Then, of course, King came in. They had a Wixel. They had Dahum. And they had obviously then they made the transition to where they are today and then where they're going to be in the near future with Cellium coming in. Potentially an Argentinian team as well was pretty cool to see because Trakes is kind of the most well-known player from that region. He's come over to the States and done good things in the last couple of seasons. So he's looking to build a team together with Zuma on the roster, with ER, a Jamaican team. Who knows where we go from there, right? Of course, famously Attach, he was out in Japan, wasn't he? Like with the Team Rush guys all those years ago when Japan had a bit of a footprint in the Call of Duty world as well. So anyway, that's what may be happening in the near future as well. Thought that was pretty cool to see. But we got a raft of free agent tweets yesterday, and a load of these were just trolls, right? Like Zuma dropped his free agent for Black Ops 7. Connor Chambers says, no, you're not, and we'll get into why he says that here in a second. So, look, is Nate Jock going to make the glorious return? I think one of the big questions is about FormaL right now and what happens next for him. The most likely scenario probably is that after this year's Halo World Championship, FormaL will give it his absolute all to see what could happen, and whatever happens, FormaL, like, he's obviously a competitive animal, but it's tough to imagine FormaL competing for too many more years. When he was playing the Advanced Warfare show match, whatever it was in OpTic Legacy Week, he didn't really seem like he especially wanted to be there. And I think that grinding Call of Duty, playing 2 scrim sets, 3 scrim sets a day might be a bit much, and FormaL has made that pretty clear himself that he likes Halo because they play 1 scrim set a day, and of course he's got a great team as well and is still a phenomenal player. If FormaL wanted to still compete, he could do so, but he was thinking about maybe calling it a day with Halo last year. The only reason why he kept going in Halo was because he forms this exact roster with Legend, Bound and Renegade. They're going to play the World Championship in the near future. FormaL's for sure going to be giving his absolute all to be winning that, but a load of his teammates are already saying, hey, I want out of here, right? I'm looking to go to Black Ops 7 in due course, and we'll see what Hector has to say about that in a second. But Octane says free agent for Black Ops 7. John kind of came out of nowhere, says free agent for Black Ops 7. So John, 2016 world champion, he had a stint right at the top of the Call of Duty League as absolute top player. Then in the CDL, wasn't quite the same story. Of course, famously he came back briefly on Los Angeles Thieves at the end of the Cold War. Then he spent a little bit of time on the Legion, and then he called it a day. But yeah, free agent for Black Ops 7, who knows about that. But also about FormaL, right? There was a clip that was going around from last year when, I still think even this clip was a little bit trolly, but Nate Jock made it clear last year that, hey, FormaL, if you want to join Thieves, if you want to captain our team, the door is wide open. And if FormaL said, hey Nate, does that offer still stand this season? do you really want to have Kenny on your roster? Can you not sign me instead? Scrap, aBeZy, HyDra, FormaL. Look, I think they will go for Kenny. I think probably that they should, but if FormaL was super engaged about doing so, then maybe. But I think FormaL's been pretty clear that he's going to leave any decision to like what comes after Halo Champs, right? Like, I think that's where his full focus lies, and I'm sure that he will feel like my teammates, yeah, they want to go to BO7, but let's make sure we're actually fully locked in for Halo right now before whatever the future holds for them. Probably the most likely scenario is that FormaL does something similar to in 2021. Of course, the Cold War season ended. He was pretty much fed up with it. He retired, and then something else piqued his interest, and he came back. Maybe that could be the same case with FormaL this time. Would it be to COD? Difficult to imagine. If FormaL did come back, I think he would be fine, if not still particularly good. Would he be as good, you know, for example, if Scump came back, I still think he'd be a top player, but also Scump has that kind of mentality where he will want to put in all the hours necessary to not let himself down, as it were. Whereas for FormaL, I think, you know, he could come back to COD and coast a little bit, still be good, maybe not as good as he was, not as good as he could be. I just don't really see it happening personally, but I wouldn't totally rule it out. If FormaL decides he wants to come back, someone obviously is going to be on the phone. So I'll share a couple of clips, then we'll talk about the rest of his teammates.
Benji's left nut said FormaL was ass, bro. Like, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like, Benji's left nut, your ass, brother. You don't, brother. FormaL can definitely play in today's game and play well, for sure. If he was locked in playing COD every day, that's all he played was COD, and he was locked in to just COD, and that's literally all he played, and he started fresh at day one with everybody else. But 100% FormaL could still play if he wanted to. If he wanted to, he can still play. Now, will he be prime FormaL? I don't know. Probably not. You know, I don't know if maybe he will. Maybe he's better than prime FormaL. Who the fuck knows? I mean, we wouldn't know until we saw him play. But I think he's owed another shot if he wants that shot. I think if he wants that shot, I think if he were to get that shot, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if a team were to give him a spot to start, I wouldn't be surprised about it. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yo, hey, deadass though. What's up with all this? Everybody been asking. Black Ops 6.
You guys got room on your roster or what?
You could literally, I swear on everything that is holy in this world, FormaL, if you wanted to play for LA Thieves, I would make it happen immediately.
Really?
Immediately, bro. You step right back into Call of Duty. Nobody tells me at LA Thieves, say, oh, the GM, Brandon's our dog. That's my brother. But it would be the only time that I would veto anybody's position saying that they're paid to do this and they need to let them do their job the right way. I'm telling them it's wrong. And get FormaL on the... You just say the word. You could have the fucking keys to the kingdom, brother.
Okay, there we go. That's all I need to hear.
Players like Legend, I don't think those players are going to stay on Halo. I think they're going to... I think they're going to try.
They got to shoot, man. Like, they got to keep shooting.
I would.
Something,
Shit.
man.
Those guys are so talented. Like,
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're too good to let that shit go to waste.
Yeah, bro.
Dude, yeah. I told you know, I told them straight up. I'm like, get a fifth and play Counter-Strike, or get a fifth and play Valorant. I'm down. That's what I said.
I'm down. Just try it out.
Just fucking, you guys fucking figure out how to play those incredibly hard-ass games.
So Hector was talking about wanting to put this OpTic Halo roster in Counter-Strike, in Valorant, and just seeing how they would get on, right? Because Halo's pretty much coming to a close, the HCS is shutting down next year, it'll be back at some point with a new game, but the point is that it's only going to be third-party tournaments, so that OpTic Halo team is arguably too talented to simply let them walk away, and this is when things got pretty spicy yesterday, because Renegade, Bounds, and of course Legend as well a little while ago, although Hex didn't say that to Legend a little while ago to my understanding, but Renegade and Bound yesterday said, hey, we're a free agent for Black Ops 7, and then Hex in the replies to both of them just said, hey, no, you are not. So this is real interesting, because we certainly don't have all of the information here, right? Because free agent typically implies unrestricted. If you don't say restricted, then usually it implies that you are unrestricted, which means that there's no contract in play and therefore you're able to go. The point is, you can't go to Renegade right now and say, hey, like, let's get a contract signed, because he's already, he's still under contract with OpTic, right? So clearly there's something in place there. Now, what that contract looks like, what type of longer term arrangement that is, is a good question, and exactly what Hex is implying by this tweet is pretty interesting, because is he saying, look, you're not free to go, you're under contract, we will choose what happens here. My opinion is that if somebody came along, and the way that Hector typically runs the organization, if he's got a player who wants to go and do something else, then, it's unlikely that he will hold them against their will, as it were. But if he has a contract for a player and they're signed to OpTic for the rest of this year and next year as well, or whatever, of course, Halo's no longer going to be a thing. But the point is that there could be a potential buyout required. I think that's the more likely scenario, is the team like Space Station Gaming comes in and they replace the Ravens and they say, well, look, OpTic, you've already got Mercules, Shotzzy, Dashy, and Huke. It's a pretty damn good team. So maybe you just want to sell Renegade and Bound back to us. That would be nice, or whatever you want to do with Legend. So I think that's the more likely scenario, is that it's plausible that Renegade and Bounds still go somewhere. But I think the conclusion of this is that if they are not going to go to a pro team, like let's say Legend maybe gets signed, but maybe Renegade and Bounds, and it's not like it's easy to choose between all of those guys because they're so talented on the top level, but let's say Legend gets picked up or something and Bound and Renegade don't, I think it's more likely that they end up playing challenges for OpTic, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Hex talked about it right there, about potentially sending these guys into the mixer in some other game. The more likely scenario is that Bound and Renegade and maybe Legend as well, maybe FormaL, I don't know, throw him into the mix as well. Then they form an OpTic Nation Challengers team of some descript, and they play at the start of the game, and then we see where they go from there. So is Hex saying, look, we're not selling you guys at any cost, there's no way, you're not going anywhere, what do you mean? It's not like Bound and Renegade have now deleted these tweets, right? So I think, they were all on the same side here, really, right? They're not fighting a war internally at OpTic. It's not like these tweets were swiftly deleted because Hector sent a direct message and said, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, you ain't going anywhere. Like, clearly, if they want to go and play COD, the option is not on OpTic, and OpTic's team is pretty good, so yeah, Hex isn't necessarily going to want to let some of his most talented players go to another organization, certainly not for free, right? So I think that's probably the way that I read it, but enter your thoughts in the comment section below. But it is an interesting question because Hex knows how talented those guys are, and there's only so many spots you can have on OpTic CODs, right? Like, unless you have, as it was back in the day, OpTic Gaming, OpTic Nation with the 2 teams, but nowadays you're going to have 2 teams in the Pro League, so you got to have one of them in challenges. You don't necessarily want to allow guys that are just that good, that talented, to go to some other organization and potentially form their own kind of God squad. So if I'm Hex, I'm also trying, if possible, if I do need to sell them because they want to leave and the money's potentially there on the table, I would like to sell them to different orgs. I think that would be the strategy. If I'm Hex, I don't think I want to sell Bound, Renegade, and potentially Legend as well, all to Space Station. I mean, maybe they wouldn't do that and just sign all Halo players and just say, all right, see how you guys get on in COD. But if SSG2 come in, they will think about it. If I'm a Hex, I'm trying to sell them to at least different teams, so they, I don't know, spread the talent out to some degree, because I can understand why there would be some hesitation here to let these players go. But very much interested your thoughts in the comments. Just one final thing, a player who was Call of Duty ready, then went to Halo, came back to Call of Duty and Black Ops 2, that being Kremp, and, well, he went on a run which is unlikely to ever be repeated. Yeah, you might say, oh, well, he was on the God Squads, wasn't he? So it's like cheese. But he made those God Squads, right? Like, if he wasn't on those teams, then those teams would not have been as good as they were. And people don't know the absolute demon that Kremp was back in Ghosts, Black Ops 2. I mean, obviously, the Jetpack games as well, people probably remember more fondly. But, like, he was called the Krimbot for a reason in games like COD Ghost. He played 36 events in the time period from BO2 to Advanced Warfare, winning 23 of them, and of those 36 events made 30 finals. So, I mean, like, he turned up to events with like a 60% chance that he was just going to win the event, and like an 80% chance that he was going to be in the finals. Won the World Championship in Ghost, won the MVP that season, average placement of like 2. It's it's a run which is unlikely to be topped. And if you look at the best average placement over a 3-year stretch, you think, wow, Simp and aBeZy in recent years have done very well, which absolutely absolutely they have. But yeah, it kind of pales a little bit in comparison to what Kremp was doing back in the day, and Kremp did again during the Jetpack era with Scump as well. So very much intro to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.